late sometimes. But and basically, I was contacted by my friend Coral over consumer relations, saying like, hey, you should, do this. You're a sales operator, you answer phones, you're good at multitasking. And I was kind of like, yeah, maybe. But then our store asked us to do a Twitter page, basically. And through that, besides just trying to help people locally, I thought it was cool, to help people on a national basis, with tech questions, purchases, and store policy and whatnot. So.
But I think one thing to remember is that, in most of especially with Best Buy having so many younger employees, is that most of our employees already are on social media sites, Facebook, Twitter, that sort of thing. So for most of the, almost everybody who's actually within Twelpforce are people who are already on social media anyways. So the other thing to remember is that for most of us, one of the things that we do every day in the store or out of the store is answer questions. So the number one thing that you actually hear from a lot of people is, so wait, I get to do exactly what I do every day, but on Twitter and get paid? Okay.
There's a lot of benefits to that too. I mean, when you think about something like this that we've implemented, there are 5 primary benefits. One is you're taking cost out of the organization. If you assume that the majority of the questions that come to Twelpforce would have been phone calls, those are calls we don't have to answer.
But John, are these people having to do this off hours or during the?
Absolutely on the clock. We said at the beginning, if you'd like an opportunity to tweet on behalf of Best Buy and get paid for it, as long as you're doing it on the clock, you're actually getting more out of your day.
And do you find though that some of the employees are so connected to the experience of helping others that they're actually working 24/7 sometimes? Some people like leaving the store or going home and seeing their questions out there and they want to help, or is people saying someone else is going to pick up on that question?
Well, we have employees who are salaried that also contribute. We have employee customer care who works an overnight shift. And if you look at it, we have, when our last store closes in Boston, we still have another 4 hours of open store out in LA. So there's very little time that is actually without a store open.
Have you had any experiences from the other side, maybe customers who are so taken by your approach to helping them? Have you had any customers who offer to help answer questions on behalf of your customers?
We've been offered, yes. But we've said, you need to get a job at Best Buy first and then join. I mean, we'd love for one day users to start answering questions, but we're not there from a systems standpoint yet.
Hi, John. Peter Davison. I reached out to you yesterday talking about overall customer service and support strategy. So I'm at Microsoft, and I'd be very interested to hear from you as sort of the overseer of the social media program, how you balance your stakeholders within the company, but also wanting to have that public voice and wanting to have customer engagement in a decentralized way. Sure. We all, I think you can appreciate the message needs to be maintained, but I'd be interested in hearing how you can expand on the message, give the employees more freedom.
Sure. Well, there's friction. For those of you in larger organizations, I think you'll acknowledge that there is some friction with perhaps how social is viewed at the top and how social is viewed by the people who actually go implement it. It's not, for our PR friends out there, I think the most uncomfortable thing about social is that there is a loss of control. And it's not necessarily just losing control as an organization. The consumer is ripping control from brands. So you're worried about losing control of what you have in your job. Consumers are in the process of ripping the experience away from the brands and putting it in their own hands. So the way I look at it is, we've moved from an organization that has had the voice of Best Buy to an organization that has a voice of Best Buy, thousands of them. So we all represent a voice of Best Buy that collectively makes up our voice.
So to follow up on that, Rich Nadmorny, how did you break down the resistance inside the company to opening this up? Because
we held arm wrestling matches. I was in the weight room for a long time to make sure I arm wrestled Brian Dunn. Actually, our leadership has been very supportive. If you look at it, leadership, I think, recognizes that there's a sea change going on out there, and that we can either ride the wave or be overtaken by it. And our employees were there before the leadership group was. So if we look at where our biggest challenge is, it's not necessarily getting our employees on board. It's not our senior leadership. It's actually getting everybody else in the middle on board. It's selling, the rank and file, the people who are, for the last 18 months, as we've all kind of experienced this downturn, they've been laser focused on making sure that they haven't had to lay off anybody in their stores. They've been laser focused on making sure that they're optimizing their traffic and selling things, because we owe that to the shareholders. But in the meantime, the world's been changing over the last 18 months, and we need people to open up and say, there's a different customer out there. And so we've been trying to introduce ways to introduce social into their vernacular.
John, so lots of question. I'm from Locomotor, and we deal with social media actually in locations. Great fan of the brand, but I think there's a silo often in retail brands between their online activities and their actual venue activities. And it's getting to the point where I can get more information when I'm not in the store. I'd love to see signage run by PRN run networks, their signage actually displaying local tweets, encouraging people to do what they're already doing with shops applications. So to what extent is that really disruptive and risky, and to what extent would it be embraced in stores?
You bring up a good point. I think we need to do a better job of being more local. You know, the introduction of Twelpforce gave us an opportunity to allow a lot of employees to try it out and learn it. And I think these guys are a testament to it. But I think what we hope is that the learning that we're doing in Twelpforce will actually translate as they turn themselves around and say, okay, I get this. Let me see what I can do locally to grow the marketplace. And Stephen's been a great example of how he's taken his experience via Twelpforce and turned it into kind of a local cause for him. So if you want to add to that, that'd be great.
Yeah, sure. It started out actually for us was let's see what Twitter can do and what are the possibilities for us, and Twelpforce came pretty quickly within that, and it's been a slow build for us, but we're trying to get people who are local, who we want to tell them about what events they're doing, we want to tell them about, hey, you know what, we need to move some product, but at the same time we want to make sure they know they're there for us, we're there for them. We want them to know that, hey, if you have a question and you want to tweet at Twelpforce, or if you want to tweet at East Brunswick Best Buy, we're more than happy to see what we can do to get answers for you, to help you out as a whole company, because with 2,600 people, every day I'm on Twitter, I'm at work, and I'll see a question and I'll go, I have no clue how to answer that, and I sit there and I wait, and Derek or David or someone else jumps in and has the answer, and you know what, the next time I see a question like that, I have an answer to give the customers too, whether they're calling me or whether they're tweeting it or whether I'm talking to them face to face.
And that's one of the things that I think is cool about this, is that we are helping each other learn, and as a group, as an organization that has 150,000 people in it and is trying to expand its global footprint into new countries, the biggest thing that we can do is help us teach us, right? So everything that we're doing on Twelpforce, we are evolving into, we're trying to evolve the experience and capture that data, put it into a knowledge resource center so that if I do have a question that I'm not sure how to answer, that question has likely been answered at some point in the past, and I just need to know where to find it. So we're storing all that data, which is another primary benefit to capturing these conversations.
Yeah, you've hit on some of this already, but I'm wondering if you could talk about the advantages of doing this project over Twitter versus if this was just over email. I mean, if it was email, it could still be questions asked, questions answered, but what are the advantages to doing it the way you do it?
I'd say the number one question, or number one benefit to that is the whole power of one-to-one to many. One of the reasons, if you look through, we actually have 25,000 followers for Twelpforce. I think one of the big reasons for that is that that many people find that feed of answers to all those questions useful enough to them. So when one person asks us a question and we give that one person an answer, that answer usually will answer that question for multiple people. So, anytime there's new topics coming up, 3D TVs, iPads, stuff like that, as those come out, those answers actually help a lot of people, and that's exactly why we like to keep it as public as possible.
And doing it on a platform like Twitter, it's almost like marketing without the marketing part, right? So you're out there giving away knowledge and being generous with your knowledge. That's a form of word of mouth marketing that, because we're public, because we're willing to say, hey, we may make mistakes in public, but we're also showing you that we're human. But we're also going to share with you, I think, some pretty smart information.